In February 1959, 9 Soviet hikers vanished on a mountain the Mansi called Kholat Syakhl, Dead Mountain. When searchers found their tent, it had been slashed open from the inside. Footprints led away into the dark, some in socks, some barefoot, all heading toward certain death. The bodies told a story too strange to believe. The government called it an overwhelming force. Then they sealed the files, silenced the families, buried the truth for 60 years. Everyone asks, what made them run? But the real question, the one they tried to erase, is this: why was the truth so dangerous it had to disappear? If you believe forgotten stories deserve to be remembered, not erased, subscribe, because on Shadow Chapters, we don't just uncover history, we give it back its voice. They were 9 of the brightest minds in the Soviet Union. Engineers, athletes, poets, dreamers. Students who built telescopes to watch Sputnik glide across the stars, believing, like so many in that hopeful post-war era, that science, discipline, and courage could conquer anything. But on a frozen slope in the Ural Mountains, in the dead of February 1959, they ran from their tent, not toward safety, but as if fleeing something worse than death itself. And when they were found weeks later, their bodies told a story no one dared to believe. This is not just a mystery of what happened on Kholat Syakhl, Dead Mountain. It's a story about silence, about truth buried under snow and state secrets, and about 9 lives erased, not by nature, but by the refusal to speak their names. Igor Dyatlov was 23 years old, a 5th-year radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Brilliant, charismatic, a natural leader. He'd organized this expedition himself, a 190-mile ski trek across the North Urals to prove the strength of Soviet youth. With him were his closest friends. Yuri Krivonishchenko, 23, recent graduate, worked at the secret nuclear city Chelyabinsk 40. Zinaida Kolmogorova, 22, meticulous, kept the group journal, recently heartbroken. Lyudmila Dubinina, just 20, the youngest, a devout communist who once survived a gunshot wound on a prior hike and walked 50 miles back alone. There was Rustem Slobodin, the long-distance runner. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, son of a French communist imprisoned by Stalin. Alexander Kolovatov and Yuri Doroshenko, both nuclear physics students. And Semyon Zolotaryov, 37, a World War II veteran and sports instructor, added last minute. 9 people, all trained, all experienced, all carrying cameras, diaries, letters home. They left Sverdlovsk on January 23, 1959. Their destination, Vizhai village. Arrival date, February 12. They never did. On February 20th, after days of silence, search parties launched. Students, prison guards, Mansi hunters, military helicopters. 5 days later, they found ski tracks leading up to a slope locals called Kholat Syakhl, Dead Mountain. At the top, a tent, half buried in snow. But something was wrong. The tent had been slashed open from the inside, not the entrance. Inside, Everything was in perfect order. Boots lined up, food prepared, salo sliced on a plate. Even their journals lay undisturbed, as if they'd simply stepped out. Then, 100 feet downhill, footprints. 8 or 9 people walking, not running, toward the tree line. One wore a single ski boot. The others, socks, bare feet, in minus 20 degrees Celsius. Why would rational, experienced hikers abandon shelter in a blizzard, dressed for bed? The first 2 bodies were found beneath a cedar tree, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishchenko, in their underwear. A fire had been lit, branches broken high above. Someone climbed for kindling. Nearby, Igor Dyatlov, facing upwards, fully clothed but shoeless. Zenaida Kolmogorova, crawling back toward the tent, a bruise darkening her side. Then on March 5th, Rustam Slobodin, skull fractured, watch stopped at 8:45 p.m. But the worst was yet to come. When the snow melted in May, searchers found a snow den 250 feet away. Inside, 4 more bodies, buried under 10 feet of ice. And their injuries defied explanation. Nikolai's skull was shattered, bone fragments embedded in his brain. Alexander's neck was twisted like a doll's. Semyon and Ludmila both had chests crushed with the force of a car crash, yet no external wounds. Ludmila was missing her tongue, her eyes, her upper lip, and their clothes laced with high levels of radiation. The Soviet investigation lasted just 3 months. Prosecutor Lev Ivanov concluded the cause of death was an overwhelming force which they were not able to overcome. Case closed, files classified. Families told, "You will never know the truth. Stop asking." But what was this overwhelming force? For decades, theories swirled. UFOs, Yetis, secret weapons, American spies. In 1990, Ivanov himself claimed he saw fireballs in the sky, yet the evidence pointed elsewhere. In 2019, Russia reopened the case. New weather data showed winds of 65 miles per hour. Temperatures plunged to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. A team of Swiss scientists proposed a delayed snow slab avalanche, a small, silent collapse that startled the group into cutting out of the tent in terror. Hypothermia explains the undressing. Animal scavenging explains the missing tissue. Radiation? Likely residue from Krivonishchenko's work at Mayak, a nuclear complex that suffered a catastrophic explosion in 1957. In 2020, officials declared the case is solved. But here's what they didn't say. No avalanche debris was ever found. No snowslide scars the slope, even today. And the chest injuries? Rarely seen in avalanche deaths. More like blunt force trauma from a high-speed impact. Why cut the tent from the inside, the most dangerous way out, when the entrance faced the forest? And why for 60 years did the KGB guard the morgue? Why ban locals from drinking well water? Why report dead birds and animals for miles around? If it was just snow, why the silence? Yuri Yudin, the 10th hiker, turned back on January 28th with sciatica. He lived with survivor's guilt until his death in 2013. He always believed they saw something they weren't supposed to see. Perhaps they stumbled upon a secret missile test, a failed parachute drop, rocket fuel igniting in the dark. Or perhaps the truth is simpler and more tragic, that in a system that valued secrecy over lives, 9 brilliant souls became collateral damage, and their story was buried to protect the state. Today, Dyatlov Pass is a tourist trail. A memorial stands where the tent once flapped in the wind. But the real monument isn't stone, it's the unanswered question in every family's heart. Because solving a mystery isn't just about physics, it's about justice, about memory, about refusing to let fear dictate what we're allowed to remember. They ran that night, not from cold, not from snow, but from something that made rational minds choose certain death over staying put. And maybe that's the most terrifying truth of all. They tried to bury the truth under snow, but you can't freeze memory. If this story moved you, if you believe forgotten lives deserve to be remembered, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Every view helps keep these stories alive. And if you haven't already, hit the bell so you never miss another chapter from the shadows. Until next time, remember them.